They don't love you like I love you. Slow down, they don't love you like I love you.
What was it about this album and the film that came with it and the story that surrounds the whole thing that made you feel proud to be, as you call it, a black girl?
Well, I think first, being a fan of Beyonce for quite some time now, I feel very privileged to have seen her almost grow up and growing to her womanness kind of at a parallel point as myself. And so to see her in this moment, for the first time, it feels like lift the veil on this sort of perfectly constructed media image of who she is and be very raw, very vulnerable, very honest about the relationships that she's in, about the pain that she's gone through, about the hurt and the betrayal. But to do it in a way that is not just talking about herself as an individual, but connecting it to history, connecting it to lineage, connecting it to generations, and creating all of these incredibly strong visuals surrounded by Black women throughout the entire thing, and curating who those Black women are and how they look, from variations in skin tone to hair texture to hairstyles to clothing. It was incredible to watch. It felt like an artistic moment that was at once spiritual, cultural, political, emotional. I don't know, it felt like a wealth of emotions all in this 1 hour mini movie / album.
That's a lot to pack into a record. I mean, there's all the other stories. People say that it's a record about strife in a marriage and about strength that comes out of that strife. So, I mean, anybody can come at this record and appreciate it. But for Black women in particular, given that subject matter and the idea of Black love, which has been written about and talked about, what is she speaking to, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously love is a very universal thing that everybody can connect to, but she is very specific in the way that she has visually constructed this entire narrative. So she locates us in the South, in New Orleans, in Louisiana. She has costuming that is reminiscent of the early 20th century. She has all of these lyrics that connect her story not only to her own personal experience, but to her mother's experience, to an ancestral experience. She populates the video with young women like Quvenzhané Wallace, but also older women who, including Jay-Z's grandmother, Hattie. Serena Williams is in it. It's very specifically curated to say, I am speaking about a personal experience, but I'm going to connect it beyond myself to this story of Black womanhood and Black women. And I think that at this moment in her career, that's an incredible move to make.
What does she have to offer then to Black women? In many ways, her experience is entirely different. She's, incredibly successful, very wealthy, lives in that bubble.
Right.
But for the, if I can put it, it's not uniform, but the average Black woman who comes to this, what do they get out of that? What do they get out of that expression of power and empowerment?
Right. Well, I think just personally, the story of betrayal is something that can kind of cross class lines, cross all those sorts of lines. The story of falling in love, getting your heart broken, and that's a classic story of R&B. But to go a little bit beyond that, from that quote that Hattie, Jay-Z's grandmother, makes at her 90th birthday party, which is kind of the leading inspiration for the title of the album, she says, I was served lemons and I made lemonade from my life.
I was served lemons, but I made lemonade.
You get this sense that she is talking about a particular type of struggle. So when we think about Formation, when that came out, Beyonce...
This is the song that she sang at Super Bowl. The video went everywhere.
I got hot sauce in my bag. Swag.
So, Beyonce has had this incredibly perfectly constructed image for so many years, and you would think that she would be free of all the sorts of criticisms that the average Black woman would be served. But when that song came out, she was targeted and she was put on display in a way that we've never seen for her specifically before. There were boycotts by police unions. There were all of these debates on media as to whether she was being anti-police.
Characterized as an angry Black woman.
Exactly. And at that moment, it was kind of like you saw that although she has been put on this pedestal, she was still essentially a Black woman that was going to be served all the same sort of criticisms and critiques that an average Black woman might as well too. So her inclusion of that Malcolm X quote, where he talks about the experience of the Black woman being one of the hardest in the United States.
God complex, motivate your ass, call me Malcolm X.
The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman.
And her creating this visual imagery that is reminiscent of Zora Neale Hurston, who also famously said the Black woman is the mule of the world. You can see that she's in a space of reflection, and she's looking at her own life and seeing how connected it is to so many other Black women and saying, you know what, I have to speak on this and I have to create space for this, especially now. I think my personal thing is because she's now a mother and a mother of a young Black girl, and I think she's creating these images too for Blue Ivy Carter. Quickly,
do you want to set up the tune we're going to play? Freedom?
Oh, Freedom.
What does this mean to you?
Yeah, this is an incredible song. So in the video right before this song comes on, you see the images of the mothers of young boys who have been slain by the police, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, and you see these women strong, dignified, beautiful, and then Beyonce performs this song for them. To me, it's another anthem that she's contributed to a larger movement celebrating Black lives and making sure that everybody knows that these lives do matter and that we are going to continue to fight for our freedom.
Freedom, freedom, I can't